What non-believers look at is actions, and every Christian is like supposed to be a role model. But I want to know what makes you a good person.
How do you justify every life has equal value and worth from a perspective of a materialist?
How would somebody who doesn't have empathy or compassion exist in the Christian worldview? I wouldn't know where to begin.
Well, hi everybody. I wouldn't know where to begin either.
That was a hot intro.
Wasn't that a hot intro? That, by the way, that's the original trailer that we had for the new show that I'm doing with Dr. Fuzzer on Reasons to Believe channel. There's another one out, but I happen to like that particular trailer. It's kind of, just tight, and I'm really looking forward to that show. So I thought I'd just kind of like throw it out there and show you guys what we have planned. It's starting in July. Now, it was going to be sooner, and we're supposed to do it live in West Covina. We're supposed to be twice a month. They are building a set. They're getting a whole design set together. But with this,
that's cool.
What do we call this? Somebody had told me somebody had called it a loogie something or other, rather than what it's called, because they don't want to get demonetized if you say the actual name of the I don't know, the V word, P word, CV, whatever.
Covfefe?
Covfefe, yeah, we'll go Covfefe, yeah, the Covfefe. So they pushed it back a little bit, so we will be doing it remotely, but it's going to be an amazing show where I'm basically being asked questions, so is Fuzz, and we look at things from our different viewpoints, and then people call in, and we agree on some things, we disagree on other things, and it's just going to be a real fun show for the Christian audience, mostly because they want the Christians to be exposed to other positions and test them out, and they want me for that, and I was really honored to be picked for that, and so we thought I would show you the intro to that. So anyways, morning, awesome. Chesh. It is awesome.
I'm having a pajama day.
I am from the waist down.
I love pajama days.
You were in pajamas last night. Favorite. Did you like you've just been like really
No, I was wearing a frock last night.
Over the house, right?
Kind of. I mean, what else am I supposed to do with all the Covfefe going around?
Not a damn thing. I mean, that's it.
I looked nice the other day. I was wearing like a blazer.
Yeah, you look professional. I'd hire you.
Thanks.
Not sure for what.
You have.
That's true, yeah.
I'm not hired, I guess. Yeah. Technically,
she's not hired by me. I just rent her, I guess you can say.
There we go.
Yeah,
that's probably more accurate.
Loogie or something like that. Yeah, somebody was like calling it a loogie something or other. I thought that was pretty funny.
Larger loogie.
Hey, what do we got for us?
Larger lurgie.
Larger lurgie. You wanted to talk about a very specific topic today, and I thought let's go for it.
Yeah, so our two topics that we're going to be talking about today is platforming and guilt by association. So, as you may or may not know, we've had a couple of controversial guests on, and Non Sequitur has also had a couple of controversial guests on in the past. So I thought it would be prudent to talk about kind of the decision making behind having a guest on, how to approach something appropriately, how not to approach something, like what difficulties you might face, being prepared for pushback, things like that. And then guilt by association is, I kind of want to make note of separating something that is socially pragmatic versus something that's a little bit more cancel culture-esque. If that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, because we I've been around a long time. We will platform people that not everybody's gonna like. We don't platform people for like everybody. I mean, there's just not possible. There's certain people that are going to be more well received than other people. That's just a fact of life, because we deal with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people. So I think Chester and I want to kind of explain what we think is something to be acceptable for platforming, what is unacceptable, and what actually is cancel culture. Because this weird thing, like people saying like Chester and I have anything to do with cancel culture, is ridiculous. We're the antithesis of cancel culture. I say, have anybody you want on your channel. It's your channel. But there are certain ramifications if you do and you don't do it properly, right? People have levied that charge against me. I've had people on that maybe I could have done a little bit differently, sure. But there are situations, even still right now, with people maybe platforming people that seems to be they're supporting, right? And we're not going to get into the specifics of it, but I think in general, it's good to know if you're going to support, if you have something on your channel, how to separate your support from them and the topic at hand, right? Because they are two different things. One doesn't imply the other. Just be having somebody on your channel doesn't mean that you support everything about that person, not by any stretch of imagination. Right, Chesh?
Yeah. There's a really big difference between not wanting to platform someone yourself and saying someone shouldn't have a platform, period, of any kind. And that cancel culture includes their own platform. So if you were to say that, I don't know, pick anybody, Jeffrey Dahmer shouldn't be given a platform versus Jeffrey Dahmer shouldn't have a voice, period. Those are two different things. So if I say I don't want to bring him onto my channel, and then I go ahead and say he also shouldn't be allowed to have his own YouTube channel, now you're starting to get into cancel culture.
Well, he is dead, by the way, but which would be
I was just you'd be right. You'd be surprised. Woo!
But yeah, I mean, look, if somebody wants to have a channel, anybody can have a channel, right? It's so weird when people start talking about cancel culture. Yet, I mean, we've had people come after us to shut down this channel. We've had people have mass flag us. People threatened to go after my Patreon. Right? Supposedly, my Patreon was supposed to go away in January, I believe it was, 4 months ago, and they said it would take about 30 to 40 days, and they would destroy my Patreon. My Patreon's still there. It hasn't changed much in the last 4 months. I talk to my patrons anytime they message me, and if you're a patron of mine, you know that you get a message back. Matter of fact, when you become a Patreon, the first thing I do is I thank you. If you didn't get a thank you when you became a Patreon, that was my oversight, but the vast majority always get a thank you. But I may miss occasionally, but I try not to. And if somebody messages me on Patreon, you will get an answer. So this narrative that, oh, well, we have to go after people's Patreons because we don't like what they say, that is cancel culture.
You're trying to cancel their own their own, or you're trying to stop them from having their own platform. Yeah, and in some cases, there are some extreme cases where it is legitimate to inform a platform like Patreon that something is going on. Informing Patreon that something is going on and going to troll somebody else's Patreons are two very different things, right? So, like, Onision would be a good example. So people making Patreon aware that Onision's behavior was really problematic, then Patreon makes the decision. Somebody going to, because that's happened in the past, the people going to your Patreon to try and troll your other Patreons, that's not,
and right,
that's cancel culture.
My Patreon shut down supposedly for things that never happened. Like I've never doxed anybody, and yet they're like, oh, Steve doxed. Well, no, I haven't. It's just, and Patreon, obviously, you need evidence, and they don't have any evidence of these things because this never freaking happened.
Yeah, and there's a really big difference between having an opinion that, hey, maybe you shouldn't platform this person, and discussing the ramifications for platforming that person, versus saying you can't have that person on, or I'm not going to be your friend anymore, or I'm going to get your channel taken down.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Look, when you're on the internet, and I guess it applies in real life as well, you have a web of friends, right? There's a thing called Dunbar's number. And Dunbar's number is 500. And what that number represents is the most amount of relationships you can have with any kind of real commitment to them. I mean, because you just can't wield that many people. Most of us have long past hit that number. It is difficult. So we keep that number, we keep the people on that 500 list, the closest people, the people that we know the best, right? But you're always going to have people
I can barely handle 5.
2.5 and I'm done. But there's always going to be people that are not going to like other people in your web, or even outside of your web. And that's perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with that. You can't go around saying, hey, look, Cheshire, if you talk to this person, you can't be in my little clique. That, I think, is ridiculous. What will happen, though, you just have to be a little bit cognizant that if Cheshire is associated with people that, for example, are known bank robbers, right? And she's driving around with people robbing banks. Yeah, there's not a guilt by association until people rob a bank with her in the car, right? Then there's a problem because there is an attachment, especially if a crime is committed, right?
But you could also make the decision. You could also make the decision to not hang out with me because I'm hanging out with bank robbers, because you don't want to necessarily associate with those kinds of people. You're not saying that I'm guilty of robbing banks. You're saying, hey, listen, you're hanging out with a bunch of bank robbers, and I'm kind of not cool with that, so we can't really hang out because you're your behaviors and the behaviors of the people you're hanging out with that you're could or may not be enabling makes me uncomfortable. And that's totally fine. We see that on Twitter. People get super upset on Twitter because they get blocked, and it's like if because I block people quite freely specifically because my block list is public, specifically because it's public. Just to make people aware of these things. And quite frankly, all you really need to do is if I see an account, especially one that's newer, and I look at their follow list and I can see, because I can see if you're following somebody that I've blocked, it shows me on the side. If I scroll through and I see like 7, 8, 9, 10 people that I have blocked that are following you, I'm probably not going to want to associate with you. So you're probably going to get blocked right out the gate. And that's not because I think you're committing these behaviors, but if you're following these people and these people are following you, it makes me seriously question whether or not I want to bring you on with that additional baggage of having you around me or the people that I deal with. Right. So it's like anytime you're associating every person has their own baggage of who they associate with. And if you don't want to hang out with or if you don't want to associate with me because of the people I hang out with, it doesn't mean that you think I'm guilty of something. Right.
Yeah. I mean, example, let's say I went to God of Scummer's page and all he had was white supremacist in his friends list. I'm going to have some trepidation there. Right. I mean, and that's normal. That's actually normal to go, wait a minute. But you have to think, so is he following them because maybe he writes a blog doing white supremacy stuff? You never know, right? So you got to be real careful. But it does give you a little bit pause. And by the way, he's not. By the way, I mean, called his name because he's a really good point about what was it? No, what was it? Scummer. I'm sorry, it was actually somebody else had good points. But no, was it? I just lost it. I was going to go over this good point somebody had. Where was it? About guilt by association if you enable somebody. Who wrote that? Was that you, God of Scummer? Or but they had asked him, what about if you enable somebody? Are you guilty if you have the enabling of somebody? And I think
there's a difference, right? So I would say you're probably guilty of something else. So if somebody is a racist and they make racist comments, but you never make any racist comments, but you're sitting there liking all of their racist posts, you're encouraging them and their racist behavior. Now, you might not agree with it, but you're still encouraging harm, right? So you're not necessarily racist yourself, but I mean, there's something there that's like, maybe I don't want to associate with this person. They might not be guilty, but you might not want to associate with them.
Yeah, there's something in law called transferred intent. And what that would imply is, let's say that I was trying to harm Cheshire. And because I was trying to harm Cheshire, I accidentally harmed Bullinator, right? Mm-hmm. That, even though I didn't have the intent to harm Bullinator, I had an attempt to harm Cheshire. There's a transfer of intent, which means that I am guilty of harming Bullinator, even though there was no malice or anything like that. So it transfers. Right. So if you support somebody that is harming other people, you don't have to have the intent to harm the person that they're harming. It's transferred.
To cause that harm. Yeah.
Cause that harm.
Yes. Yeah. So if you're
go
ahead. So if your friend, if you have a friend named Trisha, and Trisha had a miscarriage, and you have another friend named Debbie, and Debbie is saying that all abortions are wrong because some people can't have kids, and you're retweeting all of those posts about children, you could unintentionally harm your friend who recently had a miscarriage, who's trying to deal with that and get over it, and that person could be pro-choice. You see what I'm saying? Like, it's complicated. It's a web of like a bunch of, and you're completely unintentional at this point. And like this person's kid died for some reason, like a postpartum, they don't know why. It's the syndrome. What's it called? It's when
death syndrome.
Yeah. Thank you. Yes. Yeah. They had a kid dies, and then you're reposting. You think it's funny that this person is an anti-vaxxer and talking about how you've gotten vaccinations, and so your kid died. It wasn't actually SIDS, and you're reposting it because you think it's funny. well, this person over here, you're unintentionally harming your friend because your friend could now get caught up in that, right?
Right.
It doesn't mean you
Uh,
purposefully were trying. You thought it was funny.
and there's some other things too, like oh, by the way, we have a lot of new people coming to the channel. I don't know if people have been following.
Yeah, welcome.
We welcome to the new people. I've recently just got almost 300 new subs in the last 24 hours. So if anybody new to the channel, welcome. No, I didn't buy them. I know that's going to get somebody's out
Steve's
there to
buying
be like,
subs.
yeah, I have the channel 8 years, and all of a sudden, just now, I decided to buy a couple $100 worth of subs. Yay! But
With all
you
the
make a good
money
point.
that you got from Kyle, right?
Yes, that's yeah, that's I can only afford like one sub to buy. That was it. I bought one sub. There you go. But they make a good point. They asked, they said something to the effect of they're Catholic, right? And they get guilt by association because the Catholic Church had a lot of unscrupulous stuff relating to their priests. Which, by the way, I'm a very outspoken critic of. People know this. However, I don't. Even though I've argued, and I've actually had this as a tweet, that if a person actively supports the church with, and to me is more reckless disregard for the things that have happened in the Catholic Church, I can find that to be complicit and immoral. But there are people that can reconcile that, and if they can do so, and they don't have any ill intent, and they understand the atrocities being committed, but they think that for liturgical reasons, salvational reasons that they still need to support the church. I accept that. I don't have a problem with that at all. I really don't. But there has to be a distinction made for those kinds of people. It's not all or nothing. It would be the guilt by association fallacy just because a handful of people actively support the Catholic Church and don't care about the crimes that have been committed in it, and actually have helped cover them up, actively cover them up. That doesn't apply to all the members of the church, right? And this is a fallacy that
Right.
does exist called guilt with association. Matter of fact, you want to put that? You want to get into the logic of it, or you want to like talk about platforming still for a little while? Because we got plenty
We
of
should
time.
do platforming a little bit
All right.
more.
Well, we'll get
before
into
we do
the
logic,
guilt by
'cause I think-
association after this. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Do
We
some
got
logic with you
Rockstar
guys.
Agnostic for 2 said, "Hey Steve, can you please define harm?" And I just want to make sure I read that before I hid them on the channel because I know exactly where that person
No,
hangs
don't
out.
hide them.
This is
Like
exactly
$2 a piece. We can be bought.
this is exactly what we
Why not
mean.
hide them?
This is the difference
$2 a
between
pop,
because
man.
I
All right, we won't be
because
bought out
I
by these
know
trolls.
the answer is because I know exactly what I
She's the
this is
owner.
exactly what I was saying. The difference between guilt by association and people encouraging racism and people encouraging victim blaming and people encouraging apologetics toward assault. I'm sorry, you're not welcome here.
Yeah, I'm on
If
board
you
with
encourage that kind of behavior, you're not welcome here. Does it mean you're guilty of being racist? Nope, not saying that. But if you're encouraging it and you're assisting people in doing so, then no. We're not gonna
Ethics are
that's
more
not gonna be
important than money,
appropriate.
by the way, people. Ethics are really more important. But to answer that question, harm, when it comes to people, harm is something that affects somebody in a negative way, right? There's something called human flourishing, the Greek word for the, I always mispronounce it, but it's called eudaimonia. So eudaimonia is basically a Greek word that means human flourishing. Things that go against eudaimonia are considered to be harmful. So when I use the term harm, it is that which goes against eudaimonia. There you go. That's my answer. And by the way, rocks are not agnostic, so that's just stupid.
We've had that conversation a good number of times.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
if you decide to platform somebody, how much, Steve, how important do you think that it is for someone to research who they're bringing on and checking out their past history and their association and kind of
This is
what
probably
their
where we
stances
differ a little bit. I don't think a lot of research needs to be done. I mean, I bring guests in all the time, right? I mean, I don't have them, but I'm not like Joe Rogan, right? If you're something like Joe Rogan, then you really need to vet your guest, right? But I'm not at that level. I have people. I met somebody on Twitter the other day. Just met him within 30 minutes. I had him on my channel. We ended up having a conversation. Surprisingly, it turned out to be a really good conversation. He actually said, "Well, I'm going to show you're wrong and teach you epistemology." And within 30 minutes, Cheshire and I already convinced him that we were right. And an hour later, we had a great discussion. He was like, "I'm I'm convinced you guys actually make good arguments. So, I didn't vet that person, but I think it depends on the topic. I think it depends on the person, and I think it depends on the channel. What about you?
I think it depends also, like how much responsibility do you have as a creator with your audience? Like if your audience trusts you, or how much responsibility you have to make sure that you've brought on somebody who is trustworthy if you're asking them about any topic.
Well, okay. Like for example, there are a lot of people that I know that I would not bring them on to talk about ethical considerations. Right? It would just be counterintuitive because they're just not ethical people. So it really depends on the topic, I guess, right? But I mean, if I know somebody who has questionable ethics, but they want to talk about math, okay, that's objective, right? I mean, I could bring in G-Man if you knew about math, right? Because it's math. It doesn't matter the fact he has ethics or not. Wouldn't that be fun? G-Man teaches algebra.
I think it probably also helps when you're bringing on somebody to talk about a topic that you're well versed in, versus if you're bringing on somebody to talk about to inform you of a topic, right? So there's a difference between like, oh, I don't know very much about this topic, so I'm going to bring on somebody who does know more about the topic, versus and vetting that person to make sure they're not going to end up preaching like a bunch of garbage onto your channel.
We just got a new member, beginner level Exploratory Minds project. By the way, I did watch your latest video. Thank you for that shout out. I didn't comment on it. I didn't have time. But Exploratory Minds project, he had a really nice shout out video to me. I do appreciate that. And he's been a big supporter of the channel and my arguments. So I do notice these things. But when you become a member of the channel, you get the green and you don't have to worry about slow mode, and there's a little perks too. But I appreciate everyone that becomes a member, especially, going through all this stuff in the world. It means even more to me that people are still subscribing. People are still Patreon. And by the way, somebody had messaged the other day that they had a sticker that wasn't mentioned out. I apologize for that, but I did go through to look where that was. I didn't see it. And I don't remember who it was. So if that was, whoever's watching, I apologize for that, but I didn't see it. And I didn't, and it shows me all the things. So, but thank you anyways. If you did do the super sticker, or even the intent was there and it didn't go through, I do appreciate it.
Do you become members by joining Patreon? Members are on YouTube only. It's a YouTube feature specifically.
Yeah, there's two things.
YouTube's only. There's membership and there's Patreon. So membership is on YouTube. Patreon is a separate supporting creators.
Patreon takes less out than the member, but you don't get the cool benefits like the green stuff. So a lot of people do both.
Right.
It's fine. But the Patreons get, whenever I'm going live or when I'm doing something, I post it on the Patreon. And Patreons, like I said, you have instant access to me. If you message me on Patreon, you're going to get it. You're going to get a response.
Dixie says that was me. Sorry, Dixie. I didn't. If I was on the channel, I didn't see it either.
Oh, was that Dixie? Okay, I didn't. Like I said, I remember I told them that I would look into it because again, hey, you know what? I follow through with this stuff. Hey, surprising, right? But I didn't see it. But thank you, Dixie, for that super sticker. Whether it went through or not, we do appreciate it. But I did check in for you. Okay. Oh, they got the receipt. Okay. Well, I'm going to acknowledge it anyways. I'm going to assume that it went through, and I'm going to appreciate it, and thank you for it. How's that? I don't know what it says.
Joining for membership is joining for membership is that little money thing at the bottom of the chat.
Well, no. That's for super chat. Joining is the button
to
the left of the subscribe. Yeah, it says join.
Left of the subscribe button. There you go. For now, until that changes.
Join, something, subscribe. Yeah. Polybird has become a member.
So I think there's... Oh, welcome, Polybird. I think there's issues if you bring somebody on and you're not prepared to have them. I also think there's issues if you bring somebody on and it then encourages them, like if you're a larger channel, and then it encourages them and kind of emboldens them to continue poor behavior that they've already been displaying. And I'm talking about like historically poor behavior, not, oh, they said this one dumb thing once. I mean, like, no, they are consistently trying to be problematic or harmful to other people or harmful to people or groups on a whole. So like if somebody is a racist and you're going to platform somebody who is racist, you need to be aware and concerned about that platforming that person. It doesn't mean don't platform. It means you need to be aware and make sure it's handled in a way that is conducive to the baggage that that person comes with, because every person that you bring onto your show is going to have baggage, period.
Yeah, and
Every
that's
person. So
completely
like
up to the channel
when Steve
operator.
went
Look,
to Texas, right? When
like,
Steve went to Texas, you had a bunch of people saying that, why are you having this person on? You shouldn't have this person on. Da, 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 da. And the people who had you on in Texas were aware, and they were able to deal with that pushback and that fallout. You need to be aware of those things, right? And address them appropriately.
super chat.
Helios for 5 says, Steve, your diagram has filled my Twitter with people who can't understand how to read the diagram and don't understand what a neutral position is.
And by the way, they don't understand that I legit had one of the smartest men in the world look at the diagram and validate it. And anybody who knows math, there's nothing wrong with that diagram. It's a simple Venn diagram. But but Helios, you see what happens on Twitter all the time when people are confronted with logic that goes against their belief system, right? Their narrative, their dogma. There are people that are on both sides of the fence, whether you're a theist, atheist, or whatever, that would rather throw away logic because it doesn't fit their belief system. That is dogmatism, right? They will not assail the logic. They can't assail the logic, I don't believe. I mean, I had a mathematician friend of mine, the one that helped me first meet Sweet Heathen. He actually said, hey, Steve, if somebody can assail this logic, they'd probably win a Fields medal, because this is, just logic. It's like not complicated. I don't use any weird techniques. It's straightforward, just simple stuff that you can learn in 1 year, one semester of probably, logic. And so when they say to me, well, like logic only looks like that on paper, but in the real life, I mean, I get annoyed that they're so willing to throw away rationality and reason because of the beliefs. And then they complain, well, theists are so crazy because, they have irrational beliefs. I'm like, you are by definition having irrational beliefs when you say that stupid stuff like, logic doesn't apply, or, I mean, it's just,
Twitter,
or hey,
Twitter is a
logic
good
right,
platform
but in the
for
real
discussion.
world.
And
man.
Shriek Line brings up somebody, Kent. So would something like this apply to Kent Hovind? The thing is when you're platforming somebody, particularly like Kent Hovind, you need to make your positions clear. So if Kent Hovind, like particularly when it comes to somebody who's committed crime, who has gone to jail for said crime, you need to make your position on that crime clear. Most of the time, that's pretty goddamn obvious. I'm pretty sure most people who've platformed Kent Hovind don't think that it's okay to commit tax fraud. Pretty sure that's the case.
So wait, so if they have Kent Hovind on, are they a tax fraud apologist?
Exactly. Right. So as long as you're clear and you're giving these people pushback where pushback is needed on whatever topic you've got them on for, as long as it's appropriate. So if you bring Kyle on, and let's say you bring Kyle on and you don't give him pushback on the shit he's spewing, people aren't going to be happy with you because you're not making your position either clear, or you're setting an expectation from people that are not, like, they're going to be expecting something different, or you're going to be you're allowing this person to just spew whatever lies they're going to spew and not giving people what's actually been happening.
And by the way, let me make this very clear to people. The people that have been commenting on my videos and then coming to the live chat to try to come at me sideways, you just get blocked. That's it. There's no discussion. There's no acknowledgement. You get blocked. That's how we roll around here, because we don't want to waste the time with people that are disingenuous. Okay, super chat.
Godless Scummer for 5. I learned a lesson the hard way about vetting people when I got porn bombed on my channel.
Oh, that's happened to us all, dude. Sure. Oh, we've all been through that. I had to take down one video because of that and then edit it out. Luckily, it didn't affect my channel, but that was years ago, back in the Google Plus days. But yeah, that it's really difficult, because when you're streaming, right, and you have somebody come on and you have a window like this where they can actually show their screen or something, yeah, they can wreck your channel if they wanted to, right? Hey,
you need to be
look, I love
careful.
Steve. She managed to get it
Figured it out.
on
Good
her
job.
system, and she picking a level. Thank you, LFT. Welcome.
I think that
making waves here, people. See.
It essentially depends. If you're going to platform somebody, you need to be aware and be prepared for that pushback, and you need to make you need to be clear. You need to be clear and transparent with people. If you're going to platform somebody who's a white supremacist, you need to be clear that you're not a white supremacist and you're not supporting that kind of behavior and you're not supporting that kind of a position. And the thing is if you're bringing on Kyle or you're going to talk to Kyle and you haven't been clear about what your position is, and I don't mean clear as in wishy-washy garbage like, oh yeah, Steve should get paid. Yeah, no shit. Thanks. Way to stick your neck out there, champ.
Yeah, that's so controversial topic.
But to bring him on.
Really sticking your neck out for that. Well, I think Steve should get paid.
Right. But to bring him on and then encourage his lying and his continued not handing over the channel by either not giving pushback where it needs to be or by just, sucking his dick for 2 hours, then now you're encouraging a behavior that's actively problematic and is actively going to be harming the people associated to this, throwing them under the bus and etc.
Exactly. And by the way, I have a new saying that I was like, I've never thrown anybody under the bus. They throw themselves, and I just keep driving. So that's my new motto because I don't ever throw anybody under the bus. They throw themselves, and then I keep driving. They wonder what happened, So by the way, Polybird, thank you for becoming a member.
You're not even driving the bus. It's like those insurance fraud scams when somebody like kind of jumps in front of your car at a stoplight.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, or the ones that slam on their brakes right in front of you.
Yeah, brake checking.
Brake checking, yeah.
But yeah, platforming is complicated and it's nuanced, and we should be able to have these conversations. But if somebody is platforming somebody and you don't feel comfortable even talking to them about, hey, why are you having this person on, and are you aware about this behavior? You should probably question that. You should probably question why. Why is it that you don't feel comfortable bringing this up to somebody? Why?
Yeah, and here's the thing. Newsflash: nobody forces you to watch something on YouTube. I know, crazy, right? I mean, nobody says you have to watch this. Nobody's sticking in your face and going, you must watch this channel when they platform somebody. Do you know what I do when I have a channel that I like and they have somebody on that I just have no interest in? I don't watch that particular episode. I know it's crazy, right? I mean, the fact we even have to explain this to certain people is mind-boggling,
There's been people that I've unsubbed to, not because I necessarily dislike them or their content, but because they've brought on and supported too many people that have too much baggage for me to be able to support their channel for supporting those people. So like, it doesn't mean I necessarily have any kind of issue with that creator or them as an individual, or I'm saying that they're guilty of having these positions. But one, if they haven't been clear or given pushback about those people's behavior, publicly or privately, because it can't be private because then I can't possibly know about it. Or if these people are saying, like if I'm supporting you and that support is being used to support somebody that I don't support, then I'm going to pull my support because I don't want my support being used that way. I don't want to support a channel that's going to be going around supporting behaviors that are, especially if they're actively harming me, because that's happened before. Where I'm like, I can't support you, I'm sorry. And then I just don't say anything. I just unsub and I move on with my day because I'm not here to cause a bunch of shit. I don't care.
You know what's funny, Chesh? I haven't ever mentioned this before, I don't think, publicly. But I have the records for this. But I'm going to tell you something that I don't think I've ever told you or even Balloonator even knows about. And by the way, Balloon, can you? Yeah, we go. Thank you. I asked him to do something for me. He did it. Thank you. He's, a producer that actually pays attention. I mean, what a concept, right?
Cool.
I know, the best. So here's the thing. Back early on, when we had our Patreon for the Non Sequitur show, Kyle started supporting a content creator. Doesn't matter who it was or what I thought about this content creator. It was that the Patreon itself, which was both of ours, appeared to be looking like it was supporting another content creator that I didn't personally support, but he did. Now, we got in some words over this early on. He made it sound like, it's coming out of his part. It's coming out of his Patreon. Because we are both the same Patreon, but it's coming out of his support. But I'm like, yeah, but it looks like the show's supporting them. And as, somebody who was a co-owner at the time, the owner now, But at the time, I'm like, I don't think this is a good idea to have our Patreon to come out of this Patreon. If you want to have a separate one for yourself or something like that, and that caused some discord between us, right? Because the same thing, I was
Difference
concerned,
between a personal
but
opinion and the brand's opinion. So like there's
yeah,
going
yeah,
to be times in the future where Steve is going to say something that's going to have to come from Steve. It can't come from the non sequitur
correct.
show. There's going to be times where I'm going to have an opinion about somebody, but that's going to be my opinion, not the opinion of the show.
And she'll just be wrong
and all
about
of that
it.
is
That's all.
going to be right, exactly, of course. But if we did that, if
Objectively.
we brought our personal opinions onto the brand, now there's a degree of separation there, and there has to be, because there's a big difference between what would be allowed to be talked about on a controversial show versus whether or not our personal opinions of an individual that we've brought on to talk about that subject is there. It has to be separate. It has to maintain that.
Yeah, let's say she was an anti-vaxxer, right? Look, we're not going to have on the non sequitur show her promoting anti-vaxxing, right? But if she goes on her own channel and she promotes it, I can't. Who am I to say what she does on her own channel? I don't want anybody telling me what I do on my channel. I'm going to return the favor and say to anybody else, any other content creator, you can do whatever you want on your channel. That's your channel. Right? You have dominion.
Now, if the non sequitur show decides to bring on an anti-vaxxer and on somebody to combat an anti-vaxxer point of view and have a discussion, it doesn't mean that we as individuals support or don't support not vaccinating your children. It means that there's a discussion to be had here, and there should be a discussion. If you want to know our personal opinions, those may come up in the show because it's a discussion.
But it shows a lot about our opinions.
But if you were to bring an anti-vaxxer on and not give them any pushback and just let them preach about not vaccinating your children, now it looks like the show or us support anti-vax. If you bring
at least tacitly so, right?
Exactly. Wise Guy for $4.99 said, I want to be part of Steve's cult. Does that involve kicking a puppy or two? Winky face.
Yeah, I think what we're going to do is we're going to issue a free puppy to all the members that they can kick anytime they want. We'll figure out how to do that. Yeah. We'll have a contest of who can kick the puppy further.
Godless Scummer makes a good point and says, notice how Steve never brought the atheist/agnostic argument onto non sequitur show.
Yeah, it's funny. That's true. It wasn't really me. This is the God honest truth, and you can ask our producer if God is paying attention. Kyle always tried to make that whenever we had somebody on that he thought could take me, he wanted to push that. He wanted the dumpster fire to happen when I'd be like, look, this is not the time or the place for this. If you want this person to discuss this topic with me, I'll be more than happy to make it a separate show, and I'll decimate them. You don't think I could have taken on Arndt or even Matt Dillahunty in these topics? Of course I could have, in a heartbeat. But they weren't on for that. When Matt Dillahunty came on for Talk to Do Inspiring Philosophy, wasn't about this particular topic. But you know what? Kyle would have made it so. He tried to push Arn Ra into it. One of the reasons Arn Ra doesn't get along with me now is because Kyle and other people have put this narrative in his head, and same with Matt Dillahunty, of positions that I don't even have. But it wasn't me. Yeah, exactly. Good point.
So it's a matter of being very clear. And the thing is, there are some things that you would think should be obvious. But even when you hosted Warden to talk about police auditing, you made clear your position about his situation, his case, and his past ahead of time. Had him on to talk about that thing, explained that the rules of the chat were going to be, listen, if you want to talk about this, go talk about it, no problem. We're not talking about it right here, right now. Here's my positions on it, moving on. That's what you need to do. That's what needs to be clear. If you want to take Kyle, for example, hey, listen, if you were to bring Kyle on to talk about cooking, and you were to bring Kyle to talk about cooking and not talk about the non sequitur show issue, the appropriate way to handle that would be, okay, listen, we're having this person on. They have issues with this, this, and this. Here's where you can go find that information. This is our position. We don't support this behavior or this position. However, we're here to have this person on to talk about cooking, so we're going to stick to the topic of cooking. Boom, done. No problem.
Yeah, and here's the thing.
And then make sure that Kyle, but however, you have to make sure Kyle sticks to cooking.
Yeah, let's say Cheshire is the person in question here. Let's say Cheshire is very controversial. Let's say she is somebody that, I don't know, committed mass genocide at one time. Them goblins, they get wild hair on, Saturday, and they just go trolling and killing ogres and stuff. Now, if I have her on my channel and people get upset by that. But when she goes on every other channel, all these other channels, they never say anything. Don't even care. They don't bother. But
Well,
it's only they got on mine.
That's cancel culture. That's cancel
And
culture.
every one of them, every one of the group that actually cares are also those people that are against me for my philosophical beliefs. Coincidence? And from the same group that me and Bullinator left 3 or 4 years ago, the same people.
Well, that's the difference between cancel culture and being displeased that you because the thing is, you can be displeased that somebody has platformed somebody. That's fine. You can have that displeasure and state your displeasure. There's no problem with that. If there are people who don't like that Steve has me on and has me as a partner, and they say so in the comment. And
some people hate you. They're like, some people are like, like one person that we know, somebody who I thought was a friend, but I don't know. I began to question certain people. They're like, well, I don't know if Steve's bringing Chess down or Chess is bringing Steve down. And I'm like, neither. First of all, we boost each other up. But I mean, the people that are saying, Steve, man, you got to get rid of Chess. You think that's gonna do anything to me? No, of course not. It's like that's not gonna have any effect on anything. First of all, nobody's ever given me a reason why they think that Cheshire is bad for the show. Like, they'll just throw it out there. Cheshire sucks. Cheshire does this. I'm like, okay, maybe she could talk over somebody. I do it well too. We both do. That's not a reason to. I mean, it's just insanity because they just don't like her because for whatever reason. Well, okay, get over it. Don't watch when she's on. I don't watch or watch some other channel, whatever. I'm like, it's not.
They can't watch when I'm not on. I'm always on.
That's true.
I'm always liable to show up. Philosophy Fox for 2 says Cheshire's my favorite. Oh, you want to read it?
Yeah, I want to read it because it's about you. Philosophy Fox, 2 pounds, says Cheshire's my favorite genocidal maniac. Oh, thanks.
I have definitely genocided ants before. As much as I do not like killing bugs, or like not because I dislike bugs, but because I actually like bugs. I like ants and bugs and creepy crawlers. They're all cool to me. But I do not like when they start invading my house, and if it looks like my floor is moving because there are so many ants on my floor, I'm sorry, but you have to go. You have now invaded my personal space.
Oh man,
you're now causing me harm, and I need you gone.
But you know what's funny is, because of these people that have been doing these types of narratives, there are larger people that have noticed and they recognize these patterns of behavior. And so don't think that you're alone when people are bullying you or harassing you or things like that. There are people that pay attention and they can see these people for what they are. They honestly do. And it's a short-term gain. That's what these people look at. They look at short-term. We look at long-term. And they look at short-term, and they're not seeing the bigger pictures. That stuff tends to backfire after a period of time. When you try to cancel culture and you try to do character assassinate.
Yeah, there's differences between if you platform somebody and you make your position clear, and then the person that you're platforming decides to go off and you let them. So if you say that, hey, I disagree with I disagree with what's it called, the separatist states.
White separatism,
separatism. National something. I don't remember. If you
nationalism,
like saying
separatism,
that white people should
segregation.
There's like it's like. Whatever.
Separatist.
There's a specific term for it, but I can't. Yeah. So if you bring on somebody, ethno-state.
Well, the ethno-state. There you go. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you have, if you're bringing on somebody who thinks that ethno-state should be a thing, and you're bringing them on to talk about something separate, and you make it clear that, hey, no, I don't agree with this behavior. I don't agree with this position. However, we're bringing this person on to talk about and then they start going off about ethnostates and you don't give them pushback, or you don't redirect the conversation to where it needs to be while giving them pushback, now you have a problem. It's your platform. You need to be able to control your guests, and you need to be very, very careful about who and what you're giving credibility to. If you bring somebody on to talk about a legal case, and this person is known to get lots of legal stuff incorrect, particularly about specific things, you may want to be cautious in platforming that person specifically about anything related to legality, because clearly they're not necessarily to be trusted, or if they're not to be trusted in this particular issue, you need to make it clear to people that, listen, I'm bringing them on to talk about this particular issue, and their coverage of this issue I don't agree with. So be cautious, because you're boosting them up in this regard when they're very wrong in that same regard.
By the way, Twisted Hippie had a really good idea. He said that you should replace me with Rachel, and you and your sister just do shows. I'm okay with
I don't
that.
think she would like that. I don't think
She's,
she
you
would
know what?
like
She's
that.
not. Yeah, it's funny. Yeah, she is not the kind of person to do this kind of stuff. She'll come on every so often just to kind of say hi, but she does not seem the kind of person who would enjoy this kind of stuff. By the way, how was her vacation? Did she have stories to
when
tell?
she went to. She always has stories.
Cabo
to
San
tell.
Lucas or whatever that was. I don't know where the hell she went.
She
survived,
always
obviously.
has stories to tell.
I know. God, it must be
And,
nice.
she
Can you
had a good
imagine just go, hey, look, I'm going to go to Tahiti or somewhere and just sit on the beach and drink pina coladas for a week and be, carefree and sleep. I don't even know hotel. I'm just going to sleep on the beach. And I'm like,
She works
that's
for it.
ballsy and awesome.
Yeah, she works for
Let's
it
do
too.
that.
Boy of Ink for Two says, so Chesh was not doing ant other bug deathmatch.
Yeah. Ant versus caterpillar or something,
Ant versus caterpillar. Crocodile versus mega croc versus power python.
Helios says he's gonna take the clip of you cheering on Ethno Snake out of context and just put a little
Oh, damn it!
now white supremacist.
Shit. Ethno Snakes,
hey, by the way,
yeah,
Helios.
fuck.
Hey, Helios, I know a few content creators that are really good at that, and they might be able to help you out. I'll send you their names later.
Oh, you calling it Egghead? Egghead probably
No.
clip that. Spam
No,
perfectly
I'm thinking about I was thinking about dishonest
screen.
people that take things out of context.
Oh yeah, that happens all the time. Exploratory Minds for 10 says, I find your opposing trolls view everyone as competition, even within a said group, thinking that group competes with its own members, hence why they have no true charitability supporters to be a team.
That's true. And by the
Yes.
way, we already went over tribalism before, and there's a difference between tribalism and just blind loyalty and support and all this. I mean, they're pretty similar. I'm sorry. There's a difference between blind loyalty and tribalism, as in, look, I'm going to ride or die. I'm going to support this person no matter what, even if they're clearly wrong, as opposed to somebody like in our community. Look, if we make mistakes, we'll say, hey, look, we screwed up, and if other people making a mistake, we'll say, well, you know what, we think you're wrong on this. If Cheshire went out and did some horrific crime, like let's say she just turned into a mass murderer, I'm going to be the person that pulls the switch to execute her and be just fine with that. And by the way, I think she would respect me to be that person. I mean, I'd be like, hey, Chess, I love you, man, and we're really good, but you done screwed up killing these people.
A really good example is Jeff Holiday used to be friends with Sargon. And so that doesn't mean he goes after Sargon because they disagree, and it doesn't mean he goes to try and make a video about him for the rest of his life every day to show him that he's wrong. That's ridiculous. Why would you ever do something like that? That behavior is like indicative of other problems. Like, you're not okay. But he does call him out when he thinks it's necessary. And he doesn't not call him out because they were friends. He's like, okay, listen, this is a problem. We're going to talk about this problem because he gets all of this stuff wrong, and here's how and why he got it wrong. Like, there's an explanation. He just doesn't go Sargon.
Look, when I call it Aaron Raw, Matt Dillahunty, people are like, oh, they're doing it for names. Look, if I wanted to make a name, well, I would have sucked up to them. Right? I would have sucked up to them, been on their shows, been on their channels. Why would I go the route that I've gone by telling them they're wrong? I wanted to be popular, right? It makes no sense that I'm using their names for views. I think when I make a blog, these are my positions. These are things I really do believe very strongly on.
Well, they're projecting onto you because if somebody is trying to have a death match with you, they're using your name. Right. Yeah, they're not actually believing the position. So, an Intrigue Lab makes an interesting point. Wouldn't you pulling the lever make you a killer? Not a mass killer, though.
Yeah.
Well, no,
it's perfectly. If you're the executioner, you're not a killer.
You've still killed somebody, though. You're not a murderer.
Killer.
You are.
Okay, yeah, that's whatever.
kill
I'll
people,
go with
right?
that. Sure, killer's not really a legal term. Murderer is.
I don't know. We would have to get into the discussion
Homicide is
about
killing,
whether or
but
not.
homicide is lawful killing. So yeah, you would be a killer because you killed somebody, but you're legal. You're a lawful killer.
I think
Unless you push
have
the executor sooner to the side and you just ran up there and did it. That would be bad.
You'd have to get into the discussion about whether or not you think that it's okay for legal killings to even happen.
I just
So,
want to know why does everybody
you'd
want to
have
kill you, Chesh? Everybody wants to everybody wants to execute you. I don't know why. This is getting
That's
weird.
Okay. Listen, if we're going to be
By the way,
executing people,
she's really short. She's really very short, so it wouldn't require a lot of electricity. It'd be very cost effective.
I need a booster seat in the electric
for the electric chair. Yeah.
All right, so let's move on to guilt by association. You want to pull up the logic?
Yeah. So the guilt by we're going to do a little logic thing because we like logic on this channel, and we're going to kind of show you what guilt by association.
This is going to look really complicated.
Is.
Don't panic.
It's panic mode time. So a lot of people, for some reason, they love throwing out fallacies, right? But they don't really seem to have a deep understanding what fallacies usually entail. Most fallacies have some kind of form to it, right? Not necessarily always a logical form, but some kind of form to it. And so I can't read this, but I know what it says. So I'm just going to go by ear because it's really blurry to me here. I can pull up over here, I guess. So, so what this fallacy is basically saying, if you look at the math, okay, you see that little back, I'm going to teach you guys a little first order logic real quick. That backwards E, right? So when you look at this, this is a language. This is a language like anything else. You just learn what the symbols mean. These are just like a word, right? The word satisfies here. That has a connotation, means to meet some kind of requirement of some kind, right? So this E represents something, and it represents there exists there exists that. So what it's actually saying is there exists X as an element, that little epsilon, in a set. Okay, so just like English, epsilon set. And then you have phi, that's uppercase phi, which is a Greek letter, X, which is, all that's saying is that there exists X as an element of a set that has some property, which is that phi, that property that is true for X. Okay, that's, by the way, this is not a true relationship. Right? This is the fallacy. And what it's saying is it's taking that one property that's true for that one thing of X in the set of X, and then says, oh, it applies to all X is in that element as an element, a set of X for that property. So in other words, if you kind of pull this back out of the Venn diagram, this is saying that if A is a subset of B and A is a subset of C, the fallacy is to say that all B's are C's, or all C's are B's, either one. I mean, because there's clearly a distinction to be had. So what this fallacy would entail is that there's at least one case, but you're generalizing it to the whole. That is the guilt by association fallacy. Now, example would be like if you go down to the bottom for these are called syllogistic examples. And by the way, a syllogism has to have at least two or more premises or propositions. There's no such thing as a single proposition syllogism. It just doesn't exist. Now, most Aristotelians are 3 lines, right? You have a major premise, minor premise, and a conclusion. But that's Aristotelian. It doesn't have to be that form, but that is the most common. But a single proposition is not a syllogism. So John is a con artist. John has black hair. Therefore, all people with black hair are con artists. Here's an example where X would be John. There's an element of the set that's a con artist, and also an element of the set that's black hair. But not all people that have black hair are con artists, and not all con artists have black hair. That is the guilt by association fallacy. That is a very specific form, right? Because you're saying there's an example of this in a single case, but it doesn't apply to all members of that set. All right, you can
yeah, that's the part that makes it the fallacy.
So this is actual fallacy, right?
I
want to get the very formal form of a fallacy rather than just the, oh, hey, look, this person's associated with this person, therefore this person's guilty. There's an actual association fallacy. That's a formal logical, it's called an informal logical fallacy.
Godless Scummer for 5 says, I think Anthony Riley would have a better take on certain legal situation than some other lawyer, and Riley won Dumb Fuck of the Year.
Ooh.
I mean, I guess we might have some competitors this year.
So by the way, I just closed this up and my Twitter popped up. So the person who thinks there's a single proposition syllogism out there just said to Helios, "How's that Kool-Aid tasting?" It's so much.
Oh
It's so
my
nice to
God.
have so much Kool-Aid in that hot weather days. This is a guy that says that we reviewed his logic the other day. It was so bad. I actually showed a friend of mine who has a master's degree in logic, and I don't think that guy's going to speak to me again. He's still recovering. He's like, this cannot be. He's like, is this serious? I'm like, yeah, this is his actual webpage. And he's like, this dude has no idea what the hell he's talking about. And I'm like, shocker. And we reviewed it for him. Did he change anything? No. Yeah.
So, yeah, the thing is like that the fallacy part of this is when you make it so general that it becomes not reasonable anymore. So such as everybody with black hair is named John. You could flip it that way. It doesn't even have to be something negative. It could be like this. I know somebody named John with black hair, therefore everybody named John has black hair. No, it doesn't work. You can have A and you can have B, and then you can have where they converge that there are some people that are C, but there's still going to be some people that are A and some people that are B and that are not A and B.
Yeah.
Right? The Venn diagram, I think, was probably the best way of showing it.
Limo had asked, is it the same? Is it also a fallacy of composition? No. A fallacy of composition is the opposite of the fallacy of division, right? Fallacy of composition is basically saying, hey, all these individual parts have this certain property, but you're saying it's the property of the whole. These are actually different sets, right? You have set A, B, and C. The fallacy of composition is basically saying if the individual things, like for example, all our cells have a nucleus. Well, that's not the case. Let me think of a good example.
Eukaryotes?
Give me an example of. Well, I mean, like
all
all
pine
our
trees
cells,
are eukaryotes.
Yeah, I mean, like our individual cells are like have like cell, like DNA and stuff in it, but the whole itself, we are not comprised of DNA. The DNA is in the cell, so it's just something. I'm trying to think of an example.
All cells are made up of DNA, not all something like that.
Well,
all birds are dinosaurs, not all dinosaurs are birds.
Yeah, there you go. That works because I guess that's fine. I mean, it's that's a category thing. I wouldn't say that either. No, a fallacy of composition is like when you have, like I said, when you have individuals of a whole, and you're saying that each individual part has a specific property, therefore the entire whole has a property.
So all dogs have 4 legs. Anything with 4 legs is a dog.
No, I wouldn't even say that. Let me see if I can find a good example. I'm trying to draw a really good example.
Failed in Engineering for 5 says, can you point how some people justify their hate or drama they create for notoriety and pretending that they have valid opposing view? So if you're talking about, okay, so say somebody says that I'm a douchebag. Sure, okay. That's fine. That's your opinion. You're welcome to think I'm a douchebag. However, nobody's going to be able to have a discussion with you, and you're not going to convince anybody that I am a douchebag by just stating your opinion. You'd have to demonstrate in what way and how or why you think I'm a douchebag. And then you might be able to convince people. Then you might have an argument, and then I might actually be able to refute that. So, yeah. But if people go ahead and say, oh, Steve, here's a good example. Sweet Heathen is lying because she associates with Steve.
It's kind of a given. Everybody's a liar that's around me. Here's a good example. I just pulled it up. Yeah. No atoms are alive. Therefore, nothing made of atoms is alive. That's fallacy of composition. Perfect. I mean, right? Because,
there you go.
Hey, I'm comprised of atoms. Those atoms are not alive, but I'm alive. To say that they're not alive, therefore I'm not alive, is a fallacy of composition. And by the way, the fallacy of division.
So you're more than the sum of your parts?
More than the sum of parts, right. That would be the case.
So if you're... So
by the way, my whole audience must be they must be liars too if they're like listening in, right? Wouldn't that be guilt by association?
Right. So guilt by association would be like anybody who listens to Keon is wrong, except that's not guilt by association because if you're actually listening to Keon, you're actually wrong. So that actually is guilt by association. If I say you're wrong because you listen to Keon, then
you mean listen like actually like do what he says, okay? Because if you just listen to him, just do the opposite, and you're objectively right. Yeah.
Right, exactly. So if you're listening to Keon and like taking action based on Keon's advice and taking it like doing what Keon is telling you, it's guilt by association for me to say that you're wrong because you're listening to Keon. However,
It's quite.
I can. Hmm?
Go ahead.
It is. It is a fallacy. It's not reasonable for me
Well, of
to
course,
say
but
that you're
it's
wrong because you're listening to Keon. However, however, I do have a law of the universe. It is a fallacy. It is absolutely a fallacy, but that's part of the joke. That's part of the joke.
And it's so weird because of all the people I've known, has anybody ever said that Steve asked me to lie for him? Oh wait, no,
No.
nobody. Cheshire,
No.
Bullinator, Reds, nobody. These are my besties. If I can't even trust them to lie for me because they suck at being a minions, I'm sure the hell I'm not going to have some stranger lie for me, right? I mean, it's just ridiculous. But I guarantee it, those people that lie, people are lying for them. They sit around and they talk about it. Never been me.
Yeah.
I never
Like
asked you to lie for a damn thing.
people have asked me to lie, but it wasn't Steve. Oh wait,
Not once. I've always told people, tell the truth and then we'll see what happens. But I've never asked anybody to lie for me. Not once.
If there is anybody who doesn't know who Keon is in the chat, Keon is just a known troll that hangs around, that has been after Steve for years to try and to cancel culture him.
It's just really weird because he's the
he's
only
always
person I've
wrong.
ever met in my entire life that is
Always wrong.
every single time has been wrong. Like
He's
every
always
single
wrong.
time. Always wrong. I can't
It's
think of a single time he got something
amazing.
right.
Like
That's
there are things you can
skill.
go. There are things you can legitimately take issue with Steve. Like you could say that, oh, I don't like that he platformed this
Kick
person,
her off.
or oh, I dislike that, or this decision or that decision, or I don't like the way Steve approaches this thing on Twitter. You can have those opinions. That's fine. But when you try and describe and get a situation so incredibly wrong every single time, this is glorious, absolutely glorious. So like that would be when I make that joke. That is a fallacy.
Oh,
that's what makes it funny.
Yeah, exactly, because it is true though. It is something that actually is true though. I don't think he's ever got anything right. By the way,
it's truth. It's truth by accident, but which is also another thing that makes it funny.
I'm going to do an audible real quick. If you don't mind.
I would be concerned. Like I would legitimately not think that Keon got it right if you were to ask Keon what their favorite food was. If you're like, hey Keon, what's your favorite food? And he said spaghetti, I would have to. Okay, you remember pasta,
no, not even pasta. He probably likes I don't know, like
like Holy Grail. You know Monty Python the Holy Grail. What's your favorite color?
Oh yes,
blue, no yellow.
Yellow.
Throws him off because he got his own favorite color wrong.
What's the average airspeed of a laden swallow? African or European? I don't know.
I don't know.
I've never seen it before.
Love that movie.
Okay, so I'm
like
that's
the kind of thing I'm talking about.
Hang on. I'm going to do something real quick. I did tell people that I will be adding more mods once we get more subs. I just got 300 subs in the last 24 hours. I did go back over 1,000, so I'm going to add one more sub. But I want Cheshire's and Bullinator's opinion on it. But I think they've earned it, and I think that there's somebody that's helped you out and myself out. But I vote for Mr. Serious to be a moderator if he wants it. What do you think?
He's a mod on my channel. Sold.
Yeah, Mr. Serious is fine by my book.
All right, Mr. Serious, do you want it? I'm gonna make sure I ask him because he may not want it for whatever reason. But Mr. Serious, do you want to be a mod? Because I like what you do, and I just got every 1,000 I'm gonna try to add a mod, or at least functionally speaking. So.
Hey.
Let's
if
see
they
what he
want
says.
to be.
I'm not just going to throw them on there. By the way, I have to see your ID, 2 forms of identification, bank account record, social security number, and taxes for the last 6 years.
Do you think there's any position that you would, no matter what, if somebody held this position, that you would not platform them?
Yeah, myself, yeah. I've already said, look, I'm not going to platform somebody who's like a Holocaust denier. I just, there's nothing I could think that I would bring them on for, right? Especially if they're going to be talking about trying to deny that. That's something that I would never have on my channel.
Yeah, so, but there is a degree of personal responsibility or personal justification. So like
Yes.
we might not decide to platform somebody like a good example is probably Flat Earth Ozzy Jesus. So you don't even want him around your channel
Yeah,
anymore
I
because
have
you're
ethical
concerned for
considerations
his
because I know
mental
that he
health and
actually
you
does
don't
have mental
want
health,
that
issues.
responsibility.
Right.
But that doesn't mean we're gonna say that nobody else can platform him for whatever reason because there still could be some value in having him
Yeah,
on. This may
I'm
not
not going to
work out.
watch it though, probably. Right. And by the way,
Right?
yes,
Yeah.
Mr. Sears, thank you for your nudes. They worked. Thank you.
Yay! He decided yes.
Congratulations, Mr. Sears.
Yay!
It's so weird. I look I like being a mod on other people's channel because they know people know it's me. People have made fake accounts with me. I mean, like hundreds of people have. I guess it just seems like it. I've had dozens of people that fake. So I like being a mod for that very reason.
Speaking of that, there's actually 2 Steve McRae accounts on my Discord server. Prove it. I would really like to know why you have 2.
I don't know. I might have it. I mean, I do have the Great Debate Community Steve McRae one, but I don't know if I have it on Discord. I'll look into it. But
We'll
I
figure
do
it
have
out.
other. I do have other accounts that like even on
Hi,
YouTube.
Nikki.
I have one that has like 16 subs at Steve McRae at greatdebatecommunity.com. So I mean, it is not just this one, but there are. I'm telling you right now, Bullinators. Remember back in the day, I had people on G Plus that were pretending to be me. Remember that?
I've had people
That was,
Oh,
what,
yeah.
3 years
me,
ago?
and that was
yeah.
months ago.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Months? No, years.
3 years ago. 3 years ago, or
Going
more.
on.
Actually, no, it's probably more than that. 4 or 5 maybe now by now.
We're going
Wow,
on 4.
it is getting a long time.
I've been going on knowing you for 4 years at this point, Steve.
Yeah. Wow. It has been a long time. So when I say that people have been doing this for a very long time, it's not hyperbole, man. People have been trying to cancel culture me for years. That's all they do. That's all they do is talk about me. Hasn't gotten very far. I mean, if they expended their time to actually put forth decent content, they might actually get somewhere. But that's not what they want to do. All they want to do is complain about me. Man, go nuts. It's your channel,
cancel
man.
culture is there's something about there's like a thing like where you get cancel culture for talking about a topic or cancel culture because you're so when I did the halftime of the month episode about Lily Jean, go look at the like to dislike ratio on that particular episode. It was a straight up people who don't like Lily Jean coming over to dislike the video because they didn't like that we were talking about Lily Jean without shitting on her. There's a big difference between saying, hey, I don't like that you had this person on, who, by the way, she wasn't on, to say that, oh, I don't, versus trying to cancel somebody. Lily Jean is, people are actively trying to cancel her.
Yeah.
For what reason?
Let me ask you, Chesh. Let me ask you, Chesh. If people were doing stuff just for views, what do you think is easier? What do you think is the easy route? Jumping on the bandwagon to shit on people, or going against the tide and going against the bullying, going against the people trying to harm people? Which one do you think actually gets promoted more? Because I got to tell you, it's not the second one. If we were concerned about just the numbers, we could have been suck asses and shit on people and virtue signal. It's not that hard to virtue signal. By the way, you don't have to be a genius to virtue signal. You just have to go, oh, look at Cheshire, she's just so stupid, and she's a little minion of Steve, and yeah, I mean, it doesn't take any real skill set to do that, people. But that, you know what? They get views. Whatever.
I could tell you a story from when I first started showing up on the scene.
Yeah, well, I remember those days because you were on Twitter and nobody knew who you were, and I'm like, hey, why don't you like make yourself known? Boy, I didn't know what I was getting myself in for.
When I first started showing up on videos, particularly when things went south with non sequitur, when I started showing up on those videos, I got a couple of messages on Discord inviting me to essentially the Discord server that is Steve's hate group. They had no problem with me up until I got that invitation and I declined it.
And then they viciously went after you for doing so.
And I didn't say that, oh, I don't like you people, or oh, I think you're bad people, or this. I just said, no, sorry, I'm not. I'm not really interested. I kind of heard some things, and I'm like, I'd rather stay out of that kind of a situation. Ever since I said no to joining their Discord server, That's when they got super mad and super butthurt and realized that I wasn't going to just they weren't going to be able to reach me easily to try and
They did the same
persuade
thing
me
to
one way
Sweet.
or
They're like,
another.
Sweet, we're so concerned for you as a woman. And when Sweet told him, look, I'm happy to look at your evidence. What is it? And they provided her none. She's like, well, I don't think I'm really interested in,
I'm
furthering
sensing a
any dialogue with
pattern.
you.
I'm sensing
Yeah,
a
and
pattern
you know what they
here.
told her? They basically called her a bitch and
They-
basically demeaned her.
They did that to me, Steve. Like, literally, they don't demean me because there's really nothing to go after with me, but it's just like they were. I was on a hangout, and randomly, Scientist Sam and Holy Spackle decided to show up and be in that hangout with me.
Oh, I remember that.
And
Remember that too.
they tried to hold my feet to the fire, and I'm like, and who are you holding up as a paragon of virtue, etc., etc.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking to myself, you hypocrites.
Yep.
Here's the thing: at what point do we ever hold Steve up as a paragon of virtue?
I am a paragon of virtue. I'm
I
pretty
sure
goddamn
don't.
ethical.
I sure don't.
I don't.
You guys don't have to, but I'm not exactly like a role model for people. I don't want to be a role model, but I'm pretty
You try. That's not to say you don't try and do your best and you try to be a
Yeah,
good person
I'm a
and
good
you
guy.
have a high ethical standard, but that
Yeah.
doesn't mean that we hold you as a paragon of virtue as
Fuck
somebody that
no.
we try to
You guys
emulate.
don't.
You're not
You should.
Jesus.
You should, but you
Oh,
don't.
Whatever.
I'm telling you guys don't even know. I
Whatever,
have the
bro.
worst minions in the history of minions.
Okay,
They don't do what they're
boomer.
told. They don't do what they're asked. They don't give a shit. I gotta get a better crew, man.
What a bizarre thing to say that. Hey, Boo, why do you hold Steve up as a paragon of virtue when you disagree with him on a regular basis, publicly and privately, as well as follow your own ethical standard?
It's
Yeah.
almost like I don't.
Well, I can treat Feline the same way. And treat Feline, she has really good arguments. Really good arguments.
Yeah.
And sometimes I agree with her, sometimes we don't. And then what we usually do is we have a meeting of the minds. We kind of have what's called dialectic synthesis, where we get to a fact together and we just kind of go, oh yeah, you know what? Maybe we're looking at things from a different perspective, but there's no right or wrong answer, or we both agree, or I change her mind, or she changes my mind. She's
But you know what
corrected me
happens
numerous
between
times. I
us?
corrected her
Here's
today.
the thing, though.
That's how it's supposed to work.
Did you notice the similarity, though? It was, you don't want to cancel Steve, therefore we are going to cancel you because we're trying to cancel Steve. It's whether
Right,
we
right.
are, if you're not with us, you're against us. And it's a matter of, this is the difference between cancel culture and us having an opinion about whether or not you should or should not platform somebody.
What does it say about?
I think there are people that shouldn't be
years to cancel
platformed, but that
culture
doesn't
somebody,
mean I'm
though?
going to try and cancel somebody's channel
And-
who
and-
does platform them.
And let me
I
ask
might
you,
make them
Jess,
aware of my opinion, or I might make them aware that why I don't think you should platform this person, because I may think that they are ignorant to a situation, but that doesn't mean I'm trying to cancel them or I hate them. It just means
me
that,
ask you,
like,
Jess.
listen, I'm not gonna hang out and watch this episode, and I'm gonna
if
watch.
you were an outside observer, and let's say you're an outside observer, what do you think that I have ever done that's so egregious that a person would spend 3 to 4 years of their lives dedicated to me? And I'm not, again, this is not hyperbole. They have dedicated their lives to me, making fake accounts, trying to cancel culture, trying to interject themselves with other friends. What have I ever done that has been so egregious? What has Bull ever done? Bull's been called a bigot. He's been called, well, I know he's been called a bigot. Were you called a racist? I don't remember. I think you were called just bigot, wasn't it?
I think bigot was it.
Liar,
I
bigot.
was
Yeah.
Liar's like the
Yeah.
one that pisses me off the most because no.
And what has he
Just
done to
no.
deserve that? I mean, this is what I'm saying. This is weird when you have people that have dedicated their lives to trying to cancel culture other people, and especially someone like me who's
So, a good example
innocuous.
of this
What do I
would
do?
be
I talk about
actually-
philosophy and science. Oh my God, I'm not even out there preaching any kind of politics.
A better example about this might be Onision. So there's a lot of people who go after Onision and want to talk about Onision to the point where it is toxic. There is a degree where if you're making things up, if you're lying, if you're trying to, there's a difference between making people aware and the result is that person gets canceled versus you're trying to cancel them. If your intention is to try and get them removed, and you're going through and you're using tactics that are you're just making shit up, that's no good. You're more of the problem than you part of the solution anymore. Now, if your goal is to make people aware and then allow them to make that decision because you trust that people are going to make an ethical decision once they're aware. So it's like if I say Onision sexually abused one or more of his partners, you may choose to look into that information, verify that it's true, and then choose not to watch them. Or a platform may choose to no longer allow him to use their platform once they're made aware of it. And sometimes, yeah, you need to shout and make a lot of noise to make people aware. But the difference is that you need to let them make that decision at the end of the day because it's their platform. Now, you can then make a choice afterward and say, like, if they decide that, no, we're going to keep supporting this person, you can decide to be like, you know what, I'm not going to use your platform anymore then. Or you know what, I'm not going to subscribe to your channel because you're platforming this person despite this behavior, et cetera, et cetera. Or you know what, maybe you're not going to just watch that show. But you don't then go and start attacking. Like if the Drunken Peasants were to have Onision on again, you can voice your displeasure as to why you think they should or should not have him on. But to then spend the next 3 or 4 years dedicated to trying taking down the Drunken Peasants, you're now cancel culture. You're trying to take somebody down, and you're that's guilt by association. They had him on, therefore they're wrong, and they should be canceled because they had that person on.
Yep. Super chat.
Josiah says, for 2, you just went and Steved all over.
Yeah. And by the way, Maki was
Steve.
Barry Manilow, it wasn't Mandy. He was going to sing Coco Cabana in my friend's ear. Because people I know, Barry Manilow used to be a customer of mine back years ago. Well, he was a customer that came in the store. He wasn't like particularly my customer, but he would come in with his boyfriend quite frequently. But there was a time, and for the people that may not know the story, it's a great story. He bought a big screen TV and he had an American Express card that had very difficult time reading it. And so my friend Brian, who was selling the big screens, didn't know who he was and didn't know how to spell his name, and you have to type in on the ticket the person's name. And so he's like, well, how do you spell your last name? And he's like, Manilow, Maniloow. He's like typing in, and he just couldn't get it right. And he's like, get to ask him, like, how do you spell it? He's like, Manilow, Manilow. Is that how you spell his name? I think that's how you spell his name, isn't it? Is that how you spell his name? I gotta know myself. Manilow, yeah. And he just couldn't get it right. And finally, and this was, by the way, the story Brian told us, because we were there when it happened. We didn't hear what he said, but he whispered in his ear. He's like, "What, Barry fucking Manilow? What I got to do? Sing Coco Cabana in your ear?" And I told Brian, I said, no, but what you should have told him was, well, maybe, but if you sing us a few bars from Mandy, I might recognize you. That would have been brilliant response, right? Oh, Mandy.
So I think Theo must be new. No one is trying to cancel culture you, Steve. You have
yeah, right.
You have to realize you're not beyond critique.
Yeah, Theo. Look, people culture me for like 4 years, man. 4 years. Don't tell that nobody. I've got dozens and dozens of people that have fake accounts of me that have tried to get rid of my Patreon, that have told people not to platform me. That is by definition cancel culture. I don't know what the hell planet you're living on, but the last time I checked, this is Earth, and you're not on the same one as I am right now.
I would love to know the amount of. I would love for Theo to go around, search your name, tell us how many videos just in this past year. I'm talking just this
past month
have been
video every day with my name on it.
That have been created about Steve that have legitimate critique. And I will say legitimate critique and I would recommend that you watch our video about critique not hiding in shadow. Legitimate criticism not hiding in shadow by those standards, because we do have standards. Saying that they think I'm a douchebag is fine, or saying that Steve's a douchebag is fine. That's your opinion. That's not a critique. That doesn't tell us anything. There's no critique.
I love
There's
Lola,
no
by the way.
there.
I used to be a big Manilow fan, by the way, too. I used to really do like Barry Manilow. I love Lola. She was a showgirl. I Tom Jones too. I used to listen to all that kind of music, man. What the hell wrong? What, you judging me? Barry Manilow rock.
We're coming up on the 80-minute mark. Have we missed anything?
I don't think so. I think this actually mightn't be nearing the end. I think we talked about everything we wanted to talk about. It's not a lot.
Yeah, I think we were
We don't have to
pretty
look a lot of
succinct about
episode
it.
today. But yeah, that's good advice. Go look how many times my name is used in a video and how many actual critique. It's ridiculous. None of them. I mean, first of all, I don't watch them, but people do send me clips, and they're just absurd. I mean, one person's actually accusing me of swatting people.
Apparently Creepshow's video on Steve was good. I haven't seen Creepshow's video on Steve, but if it was just as good as their video on Lily Jean, then citation, please.
Yeah, citation, please. Yeah, I don't watch. Like I said, I don't watch that kind of stuff. But I mean, what was so bad? So let me get this straight. We help a person who was bullied since she was 15, that has gotten death threats, that has basically been cancel cultured for 3-4 years.
They're trying to
show that the evidence that they're providing for these buying subs.
They tried to contact her mother's work and have her mother lose clients and works over it. The thing that they try to say that her mom did to somebody, which isn't quite what she did.
Right.
So there's
and by the way,
hypocritical bullshit.
But these people have been harassed, and so what Jessica and I did, we did a story on it, show that this isn't what people think it is, because there's no evidence for what they're basically, it's all speculation, right? And so even if it was the case that her mom had bought subs, which again I had no evidence for whatsoever, does that deserve for a 15-year-old, 16, 17, and 18 to be harassed, to be sent death threats? If you guys think that that's something that Creepshow is okay with, because it seems like she is, then that's not a fair critique.
Well, she is, at least she's encouraging it and has participated in that group of people, as well as encouraging those people, with zero saying, hey, don't do this thing, or I don't support this thing.
She's associating with the people that are harassing them. Yeah, they're like buddies, so she's encouraging it. That is, by the way, not guilt by association. That is actively supporting people that have gone out of the way to actively harm people. That's not guilt by association. You are guilty at that point. That's a good way to leave that on. So what else you got going on? And we'll kind of wrap it up, I think.
No, I think that's about it. Tomorrow is that time of the month. That'll be fun. I think we're going to probably do there's been a lot of heavy stuff going on lately, so I think we're probably going to do something a little bit more lighthearted and a little bit more fun and silly, but I make no promises. It could get heavy real fast. I think we also have
heavy flow,
something like a more heavy flow on halftime of the month. I think is what's going to end up happening.
Yeah, that should be interesting.
So tomorrow, Caffeine Quarter, or tomorrow, that time of the month, over on my channel.
And as we'll leave you guys with this. So as you guys may know, we are going to be doing something on Cheryl's World.
Can I also point out real quick? Theo said I follow the drama regularly, and it's mostly critique. I haven't heard anything about swatting. If you're calling it drama, then how's
it fair critique? Yeah, that seems odd. That's kind of a weird thing. It's drama. I watched the drama. It's actually critique. I don't think so. It's like the people that say, well, Steve, your logic's wrong. Okay, where's it wrong? Oh, it just is. Okay. But anyways, so we are, just guys, let you know, I do have a trailer that Cheryl made for us.
Cheryl's World.
Cheryl's World. She wants to do something much bigger and better than we had anticipated. So instead of just doing what we had planned that night, it's going to be a much, much bigger thing out of it, because she was just blown away, not just from what we told her, but from other people have been telling her as well. And she wants to make something big, but she won't be promoting it till the midweek for specific reasons. But it's only 2 more days or something like that. So be prepared for that, but we will be on her channel, according to her. She's really interested in this. And I think that's going to be kind of cool, especially if she wants to bring in some pretty big players to kind of address this. So that's going to be nice to get our story out to people that have been tired of people being victimized, right? I mean, this whole channel has been about critical thinking, and we've had things on how to not be cyberbullied and how to be against cyberbullying. Yeah,
how to recognize,
and it's about time bigger channels say it enough. Screw these people that are cyberbullying, and let's take a stand. And I appreciate that, because she was very nice.
How to recognize honest interlocutors and how to approach critique and criticism. That's what the 5 C's are about. If you're not following the 5 C's in any way, shape, or form, then people shouldn't be taking you seriously. And if you have dealing with criticism and evidence, not accusations.
So I got. So this person says, and you associate with people who actively try to dox her. Who? I don't have her information. I don't know anything about where she lives. Who tried to dox her?
They're talking
That's-
about Defango. Defango
Oh,
showed her
Defango.
public.
When the hell did Defango
Defango-
dox her? I don't even know when this
He
happened
didn't.
either. I'm
Defango
like,
never doxed her.
yeah,
So
Defango never doxed
Defango-
anybody that I know of. At least I'm not aware.
Defango showed her public email that she uses for her public channel that's
That's not
sitting there
doxing.
for inquiries. The
not
reason
doxing.
YouTube hides it and you have to click I'm not a robot is so that robots can't just spam
Right.
your email.
Wait, is that
oh
what
my
you
God,
consider
that's
doxing?
amazing.
Wait, no,
That's what
stop
they
it.
said was
No,
doxing.
wait, no, bull crap. Someone thinks
wait.
that's doxing?
Wait. Let me go to
That's
my
stupid.
channel real quick. Here. Let me go to my channel. What do I have to do to get my email address, which is public? Booleaninator@gmail.com, by the way. If I have to click I'm not a robot. I have to tell YouTube that I want my own fucking email address.
Wow,
Yes,
I'm-
this is not a
these
dox.
people-
Like, okay, there's
these are
actually
people
a,
as
there is
idiots.
a reason why YouTube has that. You have to click I'm not a robot, and it's so that bots can't just skim through and pull everybody's email so they can spam them ads and shit. It's to
Yeah.
avoid
Right.
spamming
'Cause
and to
otherwise-
avoid robots, not people.
otherwise-
it's not private.
Yeah,
You
otherwise
have to put it in and make. When you make a YouTube channel, you have to make that public. It says so when you make it.
Yeah. I don't know, man. It's and by the way,
Right. Otherwise, with the API the way it is, I could just go start
people
going
don't know
through
what doxing
channels,
means.
go through channels, and build a list of email addresses and send them all spam for
Information
years
that
at the end
people
of
put
the
out
time.
publicly is not
that's
doxing.
So funny. That's so funny.
God,
That's
again,
so
people
funny.
people love
I'm
that
sorry,
term, but they
that's
don't know
just-
what it means.
I am so sorry. Nobody doxed them. We don't support anybody.
I
who
swear,
has
if somebody
doxed
said,
at
"Hey,
all.
Steve, I'll give you $1 million to give me Katie Dre's address," I would be unable to get that $1 million. I have no fucking idea. I have no clue. I don't even remember what state she lives in. Is Alabama or Tennessee or Michigan or Montana or something? I don't
cares?
know, and I don't care. I really don't pay attention.
Boys.
If I say, "Hey,
Boys.
Cheshire lives in Canada," am I doxing her? Oops.
Oh shit! Now people know
Aw,
I'm Canadian.
man. Oh my God, people are just ridiculously dumb. All right, but I think
That's
that's a good way
funny.
to end it because that's just showing you what we have to deal with. That these people just
Yeah,
they use these
that's-
terms and they don't even
So
understand what they are.
they're not actually going after you or cancel culture. They're critiquing your personality, according to Theo in the chat.
That's
by
not.
the way.
That's not critiquing. Look, you want to think I'm a mean
They
poopy
make-
head? Great, but that's not critiquing.
They've been critiquing you
hell?
for 3+ years now, Steve. They've been critiquing
Yeah,
you.
I'm a bad person to them for 3 years. Okay, God damn, they're wasted 3 years or 4 years of their lives because they think I'm a bean poopy head. That's their critique.
Step outside your bubble and learn what doxing is, dumbass. That's so
Yeah.
funny.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, okay, that's enough. We're
Oh,
done. This is too
we're
funny.
done.
I can't.
I can't. I just, you know what? Good night, guys. I'm going to
Oh,
go
good night.
drown my
Goodbye.
sorrows
See you-
in some nice wine or something.
See you
Good
tomorrow
night.
night.
Oh, you were serious. You wanted me to end then. Okay.
Yeah, we're
Get us
done.
out
I'm
here,
done.
God, take us
Dude,
out.
I got nothing,
We're
man.
out.
Where do you go from that
Bye.
kind of
Yeah,
shittery?
exactly.
Bye.
Goodbye.